Mikee P back on the Money Players podcast, and it's been a minute, but I got Nick Tammaro back. Of course, he's my favorite handicapper on planet Earth, so it's always good to sit down with him. And Nick, we're past the Derby, past the Preakness. It's Memorial Day weekend. That's always fun for racing. A couple big Twin Spires contests this weekend. We got one Saturday, we got one Monday. We're gonna look at Saturday's races, but $1,000 contests. We got NHC and BC seats. What's better than that?
Nothing. That's great. I mean, and they've added a little money, as we were talking about offline, to increase the prize pool a little bit. I think that's partially to get people playing a little bit late, not trying to wrap up some of the seats and sit on it a bit. So with the cash prize, you've got a little bit more impetus to maybe fire away in those last few races. So yeah, very exciting, and a couple of good offerings between Saturday and Monday. So hopefully we can find a few winners on Saturday's card.
Yeah, and we have 11 races on Saturday, and there'll be a different show for Monday's card, so you can look forward to that. But 11 races Saturday, and we thought we'll just do some spot plays. We won't look at any particular sequence. And these contests, you need to find some races to latch onto. And if you're looking at the contest we're talking about, if you go to twinspires.com, go to the tournaments tab, and there's plenty of qualifiers to jump into this NHC qualifier. There's at least one NHC seat coming. So if you go to the tournament tab, it's $1,000 to get in. You can see, if you look at NHC seat plus 1,500 for the winner, that's with 19 entries. But if it gets to 75 and you win this, it's 13,500. Plus, there's a couple NHC seats in play. So I'd expect these contests to be very well attended this weekend. Got to get in on these contests at Twin Spires. Well, Nick, I want to hit some spot plays for this weekend at Churchill, and I'm going to start in race number 5. Now, this is a turf race here. It's 2:37 Eastern. Hopefully, the rain holds off and we stay on the grass. But I'm going to try my first spot play in this 5th race, and it's the 12 Love and Poetry. This one's 6-1 morning line here for Cherie. Now, came back off the bench last time at Keeneland on April the 8th, and that was a pretty live race there. Princess Attitude came back to win out of that race. This one was on the front, and I'm not sure that was necessarily a place to be. Quick pace, didn't give it up until late. You have a horse coming back out of that race in here, but I want this one up front again. I think that maybe could last a little longer. Jose Ortiz back at the helm. So if this one shows speed again, I think has possibilities, and you're going to get a price.
About Damon there.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a reasonably good chance of that. I'll tell you the one thing, too, about that race, and you never know, obviously, when there's a situation where there were a lot of horses out of that one other than a Keeneland that had run lifetime bests, one of whom was Princess Attitude, and the CAWs really bet Princess Attitude in her next start. I mean, they really pounded her down to favoritism. So in all likelihood, they had a strong opinion on that race. That was kind of one of the things that pushed me in the direction of making Icona a pretty clear favorite in here. But I do agree. I think there's an argument that Love and Poetry probably needed that race. And going back to that 2-1 defeat last year at Churchill, she was badly out of position that day. So I think there's going to be some real alternatives in here to Icona. Now, look, I'm not going to be surprised if Icona wins this race. She ran very well last time out. She's been in good form as well for Brendan Walsh. But I know Amber Glenn is going to be a pretty popular horse as well. Probably needed her last start. Now she goes from Flavian to Irad, which is, going from great to just as great, if some people's opinion better. So that horse is going to get a lot of money as well. So I think the board will be okay for a horse like Love and Poetry. I mean, I think the 6-1 or so should hold up.
Let's go to race 6, and I think you have a horse in here. It's Maiden Specials. They're going a flat mile, that one turn, Nick, and it's 3s and ups. Who'd you like?
Yeah, I like the 7 Cierto, who was bet down to 4-1 on debut, 9-2, actually ran into Final Story, who came back and finished a good second in the Sir Barton on Saturday, which really came up a fast race. And I think we'll see as time plays out that was a faster race from a speed figure perspective than the Preakness was. Cierto broke on the inside, ended up kind of far back, never really put in a big run, looked like a horse that probably needed a race. Now comes back second time out for Brendan Walsh, should be wound quite a bit tighter. The runner on the rail market runner is clearly the horse to beat, but I think there's an argument to make for Cierto, who's out of the mare Vexatious. And I don't know about you, but I had completely forgotten that Vexatious won the Personal Ensign in 2020. I think I've tried to forget a lot of what happened in 2020. Vexatious won the Personal Ensign over Midnight Bisou in a big upset for Jack Sisterson. So this is a Calumet homebred, and I think one that probably should have a little bit more in the tank. That's enough money in a 9-horse field at Keeneland on debut to lead me to believe that she had done some good things in the morning down in Florida at a Keeneland prior to that start. So I'm going to bank on there being a little bit more in the tank and try Cierto. I think from a contest perspective, what I would try to do, probably given that the 5th is a race where, I think your horse, Love and Poetry, Icona, maybe Amber Glen. You play doubles into Cierto. I think that's a reasonable way to go about doing it because I don't know exactly where the win price will fall. I did make Cierto 6-1. That has a lot to do with Market Runner being 7-5 on the morning line, and he is going to take a lot of money. So I think the double might be the best route.
Yeah, Market Runner comes out of that Civil Liberty race, and then that's the horse that was facing the Baffert Monster. So, that was facing Crew Velocity. So that came back to win the Pat Day Mile. So, Civil Liberty was 1-2 to win that maiden race. That was a tough race, and obviously a fast race. So I'd imagine that horse will take plenty of money. What was your take on Final Story since you brought that one up? Do you think the ride got that one beat at Pimlico or just maybe second best?
Maybe a little bit of both. I don't think the ride was terrible, but it's tough stretching out, and going to a route of ground like that. I wouldn't have really predicted that would be the horse to beat him. But I think when Reagan's Honor came out, we knew if he was beaten, it would be a bit of a surprise. So I did not envision it would be Let's Go Lando, or it wasn't Let's Go Lando. I forget who beat him, the name of the horse. But I think probably in need of another opportunity going long. And Brad Cox is good at finding easy spots for his horses. So I'm sure he'll find one where Final Story's sub-even money.
Race 8, we like different horses in here. This is a starter allowance, and you get a couple of starter races on this card, Nick. And these are typically very wide open races. They're going 6.5, and I'll let you go first. Who you like?
Yeah, this is a really hard race, Mikey, but it's one where I think there's some value. And if you're playing a contest, you want to find horses that are going to be decent prices that you can hitch your wagon to. So I like the 650 Somewhere, who was bested by a nose last out by Showtime. This is a horse that took an enormous late hit in the pools, in the win pool specifically, on closing day at Keeneland. Ended up coming up a nose short. Now finds himself in a spot that's probably deeper from top to bottom than that race was, but he's run well enough at Churchill in the past for me to give him a second look. And it looks like trainer Matt Shire now finally has him back in good form after he struggled a little bit off the claim. They were a little aggressive with him first time off the claim, running into one other then, which obviously proved to be too tough. But I think they found the right class level. As long as he can sit a little bit off the pace, I think he's dangerous. There's a lot of speed in here, and I do think the favorites are definitely very solid in both Pinfire, breaking towards the inside. Showtime, incidentally, who beat 50 Somewhere, is back in this race. And then you have Getter Number on the outside, who, by the way, in his last 4 starts has gotten Beyer speed figures of 103, 99, and 92 twice. So this is a very fast horse with a good outside draw. I just felt like 50 Somewhere might offer a little bit of value. He's the kind of horse that I would use in some top slots, maybe in a multi, and then come back with some exactas underneath the logicals in a contest play.
Yeah, going to be a big price in there, I think. I did look at that one, though, because I was kind of looking. I was trying to find a closer in the race, and I think that one fits. It's just a matter of, is it fast enough to beat these horses? I landed on Pinfire. It's hard not to really fault the form here with those couple of dirt races last fall, and the Ellis race with the 100 Beyer, then came back at Keeneland and dominated a field of starters, and then ended up in the claiming crowd on the grass. Well, you can throw that race out. This horse is not a turf horse, so I'm fine throwing that race out last time. If this one could get back to the numbers, it's just a matter of, I think, trip. Now, didn't really win off the layoff the last time that this one was laid up and came back, but I don't know. Those couple 100 Beyers in there really make me, they jump off the page, and you never know with these Jacobson horses, or the Diodoro horses on the 10. Like, they sort of kind of go in and out of form. I know this one has 4 in a row on Get Her Number, but I don't know. I'm more, I think the price will be a little better on the 2. And I understand your horse, and I think others can win, but I'm going to try number 2 Pinfire there in race number 8 on Saturday.
Yeah, no argument from me. I mean, he's too much back form to ignore.
Go to race 9, and we're on the grass. That's a listed stakes for fillies. The Kiratana going for $250,000. Mile and a half here, Nick. And I was on the one Sultana. This one, it's just really sharp right now. I was able to beat Speed Shopper at Gulfstream back in March, and that one came back at Keeneland and just absolutely galloped the last time. And for this one to be able to beat that horse the way she did, I feel like it comes up firm. This one's in the best form, second off the bench. This one's supposed to beat these horses, I think. And some of the others that show up in here have been facing similar horses, but I think that the price will be good enough given that money can find some others in here. I just think that this one could be one that I could definitely, build some tickets around for the contest.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question with this horse is, do you want to take 3-1 or 7-2 after she was 18-1 last time out? And she did come during kind of a flurry for Kevin Attard where he did well. He had 3 wins that week, 2 of which were pretty sizable upsets, including this Daughter of Always Dreaming. But one thing that's notable about her is since they stretched her out, she's gotten a lot better. She's now 2 for 2 at 10 furlongs and beyond. She won the Maple Leaf last year, which is a grade 3 up in Canada, came off the layoff to win the Orchid, which, I mean, talk about that training job. That is not an easy thing to do. Go a mile and a half off a 5-month layoff successfully is not easy. I think that what my take on it was that you're probably supposed to take Ira Stark out of there just because she did a little more along the way, but they're pretty much interchangeable. And if they are priced ultimately the way I price them, well, obviously you're taking Sultana because if she's going to be that much of a bigger price than Ira Stark. I felt like Ira Stark getting Jose Ortiz back on, a lot of the public would probably drive that direction given how well they did together. I know it was against weaker competition, but she looked like a horse that was going to get the right kind of run of the race up close. It's not an abundance of speed in here. Sultana is not vulnerable in that regard. I think she can stay, somewhere in a mid-pack type trip and still be dangerous late. So, yeah, I don't blame you for wanting to hitch your wagon to her at all.
Race 10 was my last of the spot plays, and straight 3-year-olds here, a starter allowance race, Nick, and a flat mile 5 non-conforming is the horse that I like in here. This one comes back off a maiden win at Keeneland and was the speed that day, was able to just jump to the front, fast fractions, controlled the race, and just kept going. Really had no business winning, I didn't think, off the layoff, and really was hard to trust given that prior line in February at Gulfstream. I like this horse coming out of that race. Is the speed here? And I'm just not crazy about the 2 at all in this race. Claimed for 80 for Linda. Now protected, but claimed off of Joe Sharp. Not too many. Even Linda Rice, I don't know that I want coming off of Joe Sharp. So I'm not crazy about the 2. I think the 5 gets the front. I think controls the race, and I think probably improves second up for Brian Lynch. So give me the 5 at non-conforming in race number 10 on Saturday.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I think this is going to be a relatively popular horse as well. Likely to come down a little bit off that 9-2 morning line. I'm interested to see how the public handles Gethsemane. First off, the claim for Linda Rice. Linda shelled out about $1 million over the course of the last few weeks in claiming horses around Churchill Downs, and now has to get a start into them before she can send them up to New York. So this is a horse that showed some ability, was bet down to 4-5, 2 back at Keeneland for Brad Cox. I mean, this is a horse that Linda's planning on improving from guys like Brad Cox and Joe Sharp. Good luck, right? That's not an easy thing to do. But I definitely think he has some talent. He's got a good inside post. You mentioned the 3 highly connected originally, even though you do like the 5. I think the 3 is dangerous as well. Irad Ortiz gets on, and he's got some form that I think definitely puts him in the mix. He'll benefit if there's pace on.
Go to last, Nick, and it's the last spot for you. It's another starter allowance race here. Mount 16th on the grass. How are we going to get paid?
Yeah, I would mainly make a lot of my day around getting alive to the 11 Classic Glide and then playing Classic Glide intra-race. I like the starter of Classic Empire quite a bit. I think you go back to the maiden race at Kentucky Downs last year. She's 3rd behind Imagination the Lady, who came back and won the Jessamine in her next start, and obviously has proven to be one of the better 3-year-old fillies we've seen now. In her last start, really nothing went right for this filly. She was a little out of position early. She wants to do her running from off the pace, so I can't blame Gabriel Saez for that. But nothing went right from about the 1 mile mark to about the 3 furlong mark. And she just lost position. She was steadied. She was shuffled out. She was just nowhere where she could make a meaningful run. And I think it's also worth noting that she probably hasn't gotten much better than she was as a 2-year-old, which happens. So it's understandable that they are looking for a softer spot. Water finds its level in many respects, and I think she belongs in here. I think there's enough pace. I don't really trust any of the horses that are going to be bet. I like Tyler Gaffalione getting on, especially because he was aboard for her 2 best races by far, though both of them were on dirt. So I like Classic Glide in here quite a bit. I think we're going to get a decent price as well in what looks like a competitive race on paper.
Yeah, these last race 2 of the contest, they are just so important, and so many people gunning for that last race, and there's people that are out of it trying to get to the top, people trying to protect leads and things. A lot of the guys that I talk to, especially very, very top tournament players, they're looking at the last race first, Nick. So this race, I would say one of the most difficult of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I look at a ton of cards on a weekly basis anyway. I now handicap every card. I make every morning line backwards. I go from the last race forward just because the last races are so much tougher. And that goes for the contest as well. And the contest, there's a real premium on focusing on the last race, obviously, because that's where most of the movement's going to take place. So I think if you have an opinion in the last, it obviously helps a ton. And so, if I were playing in this contest, I would definitely make a lot of it about the 11 Classic Glide and really kind of try and work backwards from there. You make things a little bit easier on yourself. The hardest part about that, Mikey, is avoiding getting too involved early, right? You have to keep telling yourself, hey, you like a horse later, just wait. And somebody comes up and you're like, man, I'd be so much more dangerous if I had 3,000 instead of 1,500. Let me play this. And then all of a sudden you lose. Now you find yourself in a tougher position. So the key is to make sure that you maintain that opinion that you really like somebody later on.
Yeah, and that happened to me Oaks Day, and you bring that story up, and I liked a couple horses, but I loved the horse in the Oaks, and of course, she was the one that won, but I didn't have any money left. So I was like, I went broke early, and
worst feeling ever. It is the worst feeling ever than a horse that you liked all along and wanted to get to, either wanted to get alive to or wanted to bet into a race, and you frittered away your bankroll, and then they win. It sucks.
Yeah, it was painful, but another lesson learned. And we'll be jumping more into these Twin Spires contests as they go on all summer. NHC, BCBC, KDBC seats for 2025. Nick, of course, we'll definitely get you in along the way. Always appreciate your thoughts. It's great to see you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, my friend. Good to be back with you, and talk soon.
We'll see you all next time.